I, along with my friends, stood in front of the convocation hall and sold those magazines for 50 rupees each. An entire 900 copies we sold. So to the first year, right?
Wow.
So
Amazing.
the next day, I got offer from GG, Shittage, Watch Out, SDS, IMG as well for their design groups. And
Excellent.
Hello everyone, we are back again with the fifth episode of MDG Talks Season 2. I am Dhruv and I'll be co-hosting with Sunidhi today. For this episode, we are honored to have Mr. Aman Singla,
mm,
founder of Curelink with us. He's an IIT Roorkee alumnus in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, class of 2019. He has worked at Microsoft headquarters at Redmond, USA for 2 years and is currently building his own startup, Curelink. Welcome, sir, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. We are delighted to have you with us today.
You have done a lot of projects and internships during your BTech at IIT Roorkee.
mm.
From working on projects in campus groups to web design internships to your Microsoft internship and GSOC. You must have varying experiences. Could you please share them with us?
Yeah, sure. So during my first year, the only thing that interested me was designing and painting. I used to paint and design and do a lot of sketching. I was a part of fine arts during my first year. I always wanted to get selected in one of the magazine groups as well as in SDS. MDG and SDS were one single group at that time. And also,
Hmm.
but in my first semester, I wasn't able to get selected in any of these groups. But I think I took it on my heart and started learning in my senior's room. His name was Saraj Samoji. He's head of design in Zoomka right now. So what I used to
Mhm.
do there was I used to go to his room, I think after my class, and I used to go at 4 or 5 p.m. and I used to work there till 11 p.m. in the night. It went on, I learned all my designing. I even did the product design internship with one of the IoT based companies
Hmm.
during my first year. Mm, uh, like my first year was completed in such a way that it was mostly spent around learning UI, product, graphic designing. So after my first year, the point I told earlier that I took it to my heart that I wasn't selected in any of these groups. So what I decided is if I am not selected to any of these magazine groups, why don't I publish a magazine of own? I, with bunch of my EC classmates, decided to publish a magazine. So that magazine was known as the Roorkee Party. So I remember the concept was all my first year experiences, like how to where you can go for outing a weekend gateway from Roorkee, what are the offers, how you can rent a bike at a cheaper rate, how to get proxy in one of the NSS and CC groups. All my first year experiences, how to set up a router. At that time, Cisco was not present. So how to set up a router when there was no Wi-Fi. So what all my first year experiences we compiled. With me, there were three other EC students. One was responsible for getting advertisement. One was responsible for writing, and I was responsible for designing. So usually, what these design groups do, they these design groups publish 300 to 400. In these Corona days, I don't think they might be even publishing more than they won't be publishing. But what used to happen in our times, only 200, 300 copies used to get printed and get circulated in these magazine groups like GG and mm, Watch Out. What we did is we compiled all the experiences and everything we compiled into a magazine. It was beautifully designed. My entire first year summers and on the convocation on the not the convocation inauguration day inauguration ceremony when the first yearites used to come we pub- I along with my friends stood in front of the convocation hall and distributed, sold those magazines for 50 rupees each. And entire 900 copies we sold. So to the first year, right?
Wow.
So
Amazing.
that was my first income. And the next day, mm, I got offer from GG, Shittage, Watch Out, SDS, IMG as well for their design groups. So in
Excellent.
yeah, in this way, my entry to design and SDS happened. So I was there in I say I when I went to one of these, I won't name the magazine group. I went with a lot of enthusiasm, but what I noticed there was no actual work was being done. So after a week or 2 weeks, I backed out of these magazine groups. But I remained in SDS labs. At that time, during my second year just started, and during my second year, hmm, to be very honest, I was running behind money. So I used to do a lot of freelance project like design a logo for 500 rupees, and it started with that. And then doing a web design, I did the same. Senior started his own company, Maxton Innovations, and they used to get projects, and he used to get paid for the designing or hmm, coding. So there is one cultural festival, Kshitij. What is it called? Shristi, yeah.
It's a
There is this
okay.
cultural festival. It's like 5 6 years now. भूलते जा रहे हैं. So कल festival होता है वो Shristi. तो hmm, we started with designing a game. So उसके characters बनाए थे and hmm, वो सब characters बना के I handed over to a developer to मतलब बहुत एफर्ट लगाई थी 1.5 2 महीने लगाए थे कि वो गेम डेवलप कर दो बट वो ऑल द डेवलपर्स वर बिजी इन देयर ओन प्रोजेक्ट वन ऑफ माय सीनियर्स Harkiyat he told me that if no one is doing why don't you just do it yourself so he started with he told me how to then उस टाइम पे पहली बार HTML CSS का कोड लिखा था एंड 1 महीने के बाद मैं वो पूरा फ्रंट एंड डिजाइन करके रिएक्ट में उनके पास गया एंड मैंने बोला अब मेरे को लीडरशिप बोर्ड बनाना है तो लीडरशिप बोर्ड पे उन्होंने मेरे को बोला कि why don't you do it yourself I'll give you the resources and then I did a bit of back end coding as that was my first thing and afterwards I was pretty confident I took a lot of projects means I did projects worth like 9,60,000 during the 2 years. So I and उस टाइम पे इतना स्टार्टअप कल्चर नहीं होता था पूरा पूरा प्रोजेक्ट करना पड़ता था फ्रॉम मेकिंग वेबसाइट देयर वाज अ startup called MedHumans उनकी पूरी वेबसाइट बैकएंड एंड a lot of projects like the only goal for next 2 years was hmm, take something for 15 20,000 complete it in 10 15 days and then go for a trip although सारे उड़ाए ही हैं वो but a lot of projects and in the mid of in third year end of third year I decided that this coding field is won't be pursuing this coding field and for 6 months I was also going to Delhi preparing for IES something so I used to board a train, a bus or a train, and Friday night, spend Saturday, Sunday in Adinda Nagar, and used to come back Sunday night after the IS coaching. Somehow that didn't turn out a 6 month experiment, but I was back with Microsoft, and in Microsoft it was a 2 month internship, and in those 2 months, I did three books, also published a paper. That paper got selected into a conference. I represented Microsoft in that conference. And then in that conference, someone mm, was from the Redmond team also who interacted with me. To my surprise, I was lucky enough to get a recommendation letter from him for the Redmond joining. And yeah, that was one of the things that helped me to get into the admin. So
Wow.
It was a series of events. Like I see these students like what these second year, third year I do like mm, going into coding directly. Mine was more of an organic path, I would say. It happened organically.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
Like you seriously so tried it all and then decided what you finally want to do.
But yeah, at that time, some of my friends like Taneja and mm, Ayush were trying out entrepreneurship, and at that time, I used to call those guys foolish. Went after my Redmond offer, like we went into FamPay. Like we were four people starting FamPay in Gurgaon. Kush and Sambhav were already there. I joined them. Hmm. So at that time, we spent like 2, 3 months. It was like for me, it was like going into entirely different space. I was mostly silent at that time, but I observed a lot of things like the into the rush, the adrenaline rush, all those things. And at that time, I understood the value of it and ultimately moved into entrepreneurship.
So that was an amazing journey, like, and you explained it pretty well, especially the parts about even you trying out for IAS for 6 months and stuff. Uh,
Yep.
so like, we wanted to know, like, if was there anything specific that made you decide, at the end of say 3.5 years, that okay, you want to accept that Redmond offer as a software development profile because you really like tried every single way there was, including design and even
Uh,
IAS. So was there anything
yeah.
specific that
No,
made
I
you?
was not preparing for IES. I was preparing for similar PCS, Punjab Civil
Okay.
Services exam. So why Redmond? Very, very, very honestly, it was just because of money, nothing else. Uh, One of the experiences, like it was at that time, my mentality was to earn as much money as possible. So the offer seems pretty lucrative, and yeah, just money at that time.
Yes, like you described more or less your entire process of getting to Redmond from that
Hmm.
conference.
But during my admin interview, it was just not only the coding part. Yeah, there was some aspect of it, couple of rounds of coding, but the final round, I would say, was not a coding round. It was more of what kind of person and what kind of experiences you have. So hmm, we talked about this journey in very, like, I think out of the final interview, 2.5 hour interview, 1.5 hour interview was the experiences I gained during these 4 years. We talked about design, we talked about IF with the interviewer, everything.
Uh, uh, Also, sir, you described that getting into Redmond, like it was not an easy task, and you put a lot of work into it. What made you reconsider that decision later and opt out for a startup instead? You did share a part of it in the
Hmm.
sense that you like the culture,
So,
you observe the culture, but what was it exactly?
okay, I would say the turning point was my experience 3 months as a working in FamPay was a turning moment in my life. When I was in Redmond, I was initially in Vancouver for 1 year, and this is a rotational program. So you have to be in Microsoft Vancouver, and then due to the visa issue, then you get moved to Redmond. So initially, everything was very good. It was very lovey-dovey. So everyone, the background photos used to come pretty good. We used to go to hiking, everything. The work-life balance. Don't confuse the work. Like the work in Microsoft USA is much better. Like the quality of work is much better. But I, there is a gap of 6 months between where you get graduated and if you get a foreign offer due to the visa issue, there is a gap for 6 months. In those 6 months, I did like a GSOC and as well as I was there in FAMPay. So for 3, 4 months, I think those 3, 4 months, the amount of work we used to do, the quality of work, and the exponential gains from the work you could gain. The possibility,
Yes.
or as I've seen those gains, the मतलब माइक्रोसॉफ्ट में या 2-3 घंटे काम करके ऐसे 10-15 लाख महीने के मिल जाते थे, but it was very easy money, and I don't think I want that kind of money, easiness at this early stage of life. So I think FamPay plus mm, the zeal to do something of my own pushed me to doing something of my own.
Yes, sir. Also, sir, considering how lucrative a job offer in the US is,
Hmm.
especially from Microsoft, what was your
इतना
family's?
नहीं है यार, इतना नहीं है. I would
Sure.
tell to everyone here, like, it sounds lucrative, but the quality, okay, I'll say the quality of life is better there, but the comfort of life is better in India, I would say. I mean, the comfort of having your friends and family here, the comfort of the like ordering a food, or comfort of a gateway, all those comforts are better in India. So, and although those figures might look lucrative to you, but those figures aren't like lucrative when you are staying in US. It's a standard normal job. But yeah, initial fascination, even I had that fascination, that's why I went there, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
it's not that lucrative. Yeah, you may continue your question.
Anyways, sir, like you mentioned that initial fascination. So what
Mm.
was your parents' reaction to you leaving that job at Redmond?
So my parents, one second.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Mm. My parents, my parents are, I think, still not convinced by leaving because they got, मतलब वो बहुत मुश्किल है, right? Convince
Yes, sir.
करना parents को. So for I started working on Curelink for like 1 year, 1.5 year right now, and it started on 15th August. My first commit of code was on 50. If you look at my GitHub, it was on 15th August 2020. Oh, that's a long time. And we pivoted in September 2021, June, July, September, August, September 2021. But yeah, for 1 year, I used to work like crazy. That's the hardest I worked. Like, I used to get up at 10 a.m., 10 or 11 a.m. I used to work till 8 p.m. Then I had a very dear friend of mine. I used to go on a drive with him, and we used to eat chicken and have coffee. And at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. I used to have food, and in 10 p.m. I start working for US. For Microsoft, and I used to work till 4 or 5 a.m., go with the morning walk with parents, come at 6 a.m., sleep at 6 a.m., get up at 10 a.m., have a start the work, and this repeated for one whole year. So that 1 year of working for US as well as my startup really drained me out. And hmm, still my mother father were not convinced, seeing my working like 14, 15, 16, 17 hours a day.
Yes.
Still my parents were not convinced. They were pretty much convinced that Microsoft is the best path for me. But yeah, once my co-founder, initially my co-founder Divyansh Jain, like he resigned in March 2021, and he was like, he was extremely supportive, I would say. Like he told that
Yes.
if your parents, and his parents got convinced very easily. He was at JP Morgan. So his parents got convinced. I got a lot of support from it. And one day I took a stand, and yeah, before telling my parents, I submitted resignation letter. And after that, I didn't tell them, right? उस महीने की
Yes.
my parents do not like, उनको कैसे पता चलेगा कि मैं बताऊंगा ही नहीं. So after like 20-25 days, I told my parents, and my friends were there with me. Ram Bansal, Karan Bedi, all those friends were there with me because they knew my family and know my father would get shocked and angry. But the thing has already been done, so it was undoable. So in this way, they were not convinced. They are now convinced, seeing the progress of the company, seeing the we grew from like 8 to 30 people in 2-3 months, and
Yes.
now came to Gurgaon to see me for the first time, see the company office, see the house, and now they stopped questioning me. But still, at the back of their mind, they are not convinced. I know that.
Yes, sir. You mentioned your work at Redmond and here in detail. Like, is there any major thing you would say, like one major thing that separates work at Curelink right now and the work you did at Microsoft in terms of what you did? You mentioned like work-life balance.
But
It was easier at Microsoft and stuff. But
if you
in terms
want a
of,
simple life, like
yes, sir.
if working 2 3 hours, 2 3 hours and 2 3 hours of meetings. So 5 hours Microsoft work. It was. I was lucky enough to be a part of an amazing team. Like I was in the cloud team and we used to work on entirely new concept. I was part of architecture meetings. The quality of work was just on another level. And I learned a lot from my manager. Like he was an excellent personality. He was the youngest one to get promoted to a principal manager. He was an excellent manager. I learned a lot. It was good, but mm, I this is entirely different thing. This is like adrenaline rush for like 24/7.
Yes.
You get thinking and team building, problem solving, meeting customers. Mm, it's entirely different thing. It's like if you see my calendar now, it's almost booked like 24/7. Like apart from just I'm not sleeping, I am doing something. So and which I like the most. I am happy what I'm doing right now, and I always wanted to do this.
So,
Hope.
sir, like, we would like to know more about Curelink from you. So, Sunidhi, if you could proceed with the questions.
Hmm.
Yes,
What
sir.
about Curelink you
Sir,
would like to know?
we would love to know about, sir, what led to the idea for it? And like, it was a startup. So how were you convinced that the idea is worth investing your time in?
So initially, what Curelink was, hmm, in India there is a don't look at North India, look at the parts of Rajasthan, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh. People have to travel hundreds of kilometers, often for a 5 minute consultation with a doctor, which can happen digitally. But people are not aware, people don't download. I cannot expect my mother to download an app to look for a doctor, to hmm, select a specialty, to look for a doctor, select a time slot, do a online payment, upload a records. It's just not practical.
Yes, sir.
It is not practical for me, for my 55-year-old mother. The internet is WhatsApp, Facebook, and YouTube. That's the limit. If she have to join a Zoom call, then also it's a bit of
Hassle.
hassle. Hassle as well as she is not able to
Yes,
do
sir.
it. I have to assist that.
Yes, sir.
So there's a very big gap. The first iteration of product was this. I'll just share my screen and show you. So the first iteration of our product was these. The first like 1 year we spent building these teleclinics. So these were our teleclinics. This was the first model of telemedicine we tried out. So we used to build. Divyansh is a hardware guy. I'm a software guy. So in 3 months we built this clinic. So the concept was in these areas where the specialist doctor is not present, we will help the local clinician. The local clinician could be a RMP doctor, it could be a physician, it could be anyone, pharmacist. So the
Yes.
specialist doctor used to come on, and the specialist doctor used to come on the screen and help the local physician to consult the doctor. At that time, we had these 21 teleclinics, and COVID 2.0 came. So all our operation got shut. At that time, we were handling about 600 patients, and these 600 patients were relying on us, doctor-patient interaction. So सो हमने बहुत एक जुगाड़ पे व्हाट्सएप सोल्यूशन बनाया जिसमें हम डॉक्टर का नंबर बिना शेयर किए बिना हम पेशेंट से बात करा देते थे मतलब उसमें ऐसा एक इनिशियल ये जुगाड़ सोचो भी एक ग्रुप है पेशेंट के साथ एक डॉक्टर के साथ ग्रुप है एंड पेशेंट से हम सारी हिस्ट्री डॉक्टर बहुत बिजी आदमी है वो कुछ नहीं करेगा उससे सारा पेमेंट से लेके हिस्ट्री से लेके सब कुछ हम कनेक्ट कर देते थे सब कुछ हम लेते थे और डॉक्टर को भेज देते थे एक सिंगल पैराग्राफ में, उसी में रिपोर्ट्स होती थी और डॉक्टर बस रिप्लाई कर देता, हम पेशेंट को बता देते थे। कुछ कुछ बहुत ज्यादा जुगाड़ बनाया एंड फिर उसको ऑटोमेट करने की कोशिश की। In this way, Curelink was born. The doctor could talk to their patient without sharing the number on WhatsApp. So then the tech thingy came and mm, everything we tried to automate. So now, in which the Curelink is, we are a doctor-patient engagement channel on WhatsApp, which tries to improve the patient's health and enable doctor for digital therapeutics. ये शायद तुम्हें समझ ना आए पर ठीक है।